I will call this meeting to order. Roll call that can take it electronically. This meeting of the Ripon Area School District Board of Education has been properly noticed in accordance with the open meeting law and state statute 19.84 and related legal references. Our district vision, one of Wisconsin's finest school districts, fostering excellence for all through innovation. And we'd like to start by recognizing the state's FBLA participants. Only 3 here. Okay, so introduce yourselves and talk to us a little bit about it.
I'm Mara, and I competed in spreadsheet applications, and what I had to do was put in information into Excel and format it.
My name is Maddie, and I took a test on cybersecurity at state, and I also participated in the local chapter annual business report with Allie.
My name is Allie, and this year I competed in 3 different events at state. The first event was called the Who's Who, and I placed 3rd at state in that competition. And the Who's Who award is kind of a FBLA award that local officers get. It's all of your conferences that you want to go to, competitions, it's just all these points, and then it's kind of ranked. That's how the places are. And then my other event was electronic business portfolio, or electronic career portfolio, and that one I did by myself, and I got first at state this year. That event was a combination of my resume, my education, my experience, and my skills. And I put them all together, and why all of that would make me a good restaurant manager. And then I also did local chapter annual business report with Maddie, and that was a 15-page business report. That was prejudged, and then we got first place at state for that as well. And then we did a presentation just to go over a general overview of it.
How did everybody else do? So we have a lot of people not here tonight.
Yes. So Maddie and I, and then 3 other boys are going to nationals in Orlando, Florida this year. Brennan Martin, Emerson Hendricks, and then Evan Bergman. They placed 4th, I believe, in their data analysis competition, and that was, I believe they had to do something with a car dealership. They had to do all these spreadsheets, something for it. They could tell you more about it, but yeah, they're also going to national success.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do they teach you not to be nervous, or how do?
Well, it's, if you have a presentation event, there's tests, there's presentations, and the presentation events, part of the grading on the rubric is presentation. So you gotta make sure you're ready for your event, you're not nervous, you're prepared, you're calm, things like that. So we work really hard to make sure we're prepared for our presentations so we're not nervous.
Where is Nationals this year?
Nationals is in Orlando, Florida this year.
Cool. Was it at Leon, was it
Yes.
last year? I remember you guys. Yeah, that's awesome.
Very nice. See if I've got the right certificate. I think I do. Maya? Congratulations. Congratulations. Excellent job.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for explaining.
Thank you.
Now we'd like to recognize all the retirees. So in what order are we going to do?
Someone want to go first? Okay.
We have 3 people retiring this year from Ripon besides me. So I'd like to start with Chris Coppridge, please, if I could. So Chris, you want to stand, or what would you like to do? But Chris has been serving in Ripon Area School District since 2015 for a total of 9 years of service. In this time, he started as a second shift custodian at Marine Park West for his first 2 years, and then he was promoted to lead custodian for the past 7 years. In his 9 years of employment within our district, Chris has shown extreme dedication in supporting our students, staff, and our district in countless ways. For example, as Chris started in Ripon, there were years where he actually started his day at the ASC at the crack of dawn before he got to Murray Park West to start his full day with us. He has also filled in at the high school when they were short-staffed to help their team, which again extended his workday. Additionally, when we hired our new custodial staff, Chris would always be very willing to train them during varying shifts, even swapping shifts at times to make sure that the new hires had the experience and support they needed to be successful. Beyond this, Chris was part of our team through COVID, which again presented another huge layer of challenge with added hours and responsibilities before school, during the day, and even on weekends to be able to keep our building open. Chris has been viewed as a trusted colleague and a friend within our MPQ family. He has consistently gone above and beyond to ensure our school always looks beautiful and every one of our staff requests are taken care of with a moment's notice. This is to say that our building is always in check. The walkways are clear and the black hole of our school, which is also known as our storage shed, was always ready for the return to school. We always kidded him that our school shined like the top of the Chrysler building. One thing all of us for sure always remember about Chris is his humor. He would bring to the day our days in all kinds of ways. Yes, he does get the award for always being in the running as one of our MPQ top qualifiers with any dress-up days, school spirit days, and celebration days. Today was no exception, as we had sports dress-up day today, and Chris came decked out in his motocross gear from head to toe. He was literally vacuuming in the media center with his helmet on and everything else. My point of this is that Chris has been such a fun and important part of our MPQ family over these years. He'll be greatly missed, not only for his excellence and the pride he's taken in his work, but for the incredible person that he is. A few of the descriptive phrases that I'd like to be able to share that our staff had shared about Chris. There were many, many more, but I chose 10 that kind of stood out to me about you, Chris. Always willing to help, meticulous, dedicated, empathetic, a fighter, generous, inspirational, passionate, unstoppable, and a survivor. We are so happy for you, Chris, and wish you nothing but the absolute best in your retirement. Congratulations.
I just wanted to add a couple things about Chris. Chris is one of the original staff members that I was blessed to have when I took over the team a little less than 7 years ago. He was one of the night custodians that really had a vision of how we should clean at night and how the building should look. Chris took on the reins when I asked him to take on the lead position, and really has turned Murray into a beautiful building, just like the rest of them. I think of some of the stuff that Chris has done, and different things. I think 6 months into my position, he was out riding his dirt bike at a race, and he texted me and Renee, and he said, "Hey Brian, I probably won't be in on Monday because I broke my collarbone. But I'll probably be in on Tuesday or Wednesday because I should be able to do my work with one hand." Chris comes in on Monday night and he's in a sling, and I said, "Chris, I think we might have to take a couple weeks off." He made sure to check it every day, make sure the building was held really good, and that's the dedication he had. I mean, he can every day he's got a smile on his face, greeting the students, greeting the staff. Always jumps in, like Renee said. He's helped in some of the buildings when I've been short-staffed and said, "Absolutely, Brian, I'll help." Even when he's dealt with his own personal challenges, he's always wanted to be at Murray no matter what, and he always checked in with me, make sure that everything's going good, and hopefully we kept up to his standards. But tonight I said to Chris today, I just 10 more years, Chris, 10 more years. And he says, how about 10 or 11 more weeks? So I'm going to cherish those 10 or 11 weeks, but I know he's going to enjoy his retirement. I know he'll stop in and check on us. And, you know, thank you, Chris, for being you, and thank you for taking such good care of our building.
Next, Nancy Coles. You can sit or stand, whichever you choose. Nancy Coles has been serving in the Ripon Area School District for 20 years. Nancy started at Marie Park West in 2004 as a one-on-one support staff member for a child with special needs. After several years in this role, Nancy transitioned to a special education support staff member within our cross-categorical classrooms, along with our ID classroom at one point, to support our students with special needs for the remainder of her 20 years of service within our school. In Nancy's years in Ripon, she has been someone who would always notice when someone needed help, and she would very willingly jump in to assist with pretty much anything, except maybe bus duty, after holding the fort down for 19 years in that role. Not always the favorite task for anybody. As many of you know, Nancy was one of the absolute best in supporting some of our most challenging behaviors, which isn't easy. She gave so selflessly of herself day in and day out, not only during the day, but she would go above and beyond the call of duty as she volunteered to stay after hours in order to help a child or a staff member in need, support at our after-school break program, join our summer school teaching and custodial staff, help in the office when needed, and even accompany our 5th grade choir one year as she played the piano for the performance. To put into perspective what Nancy's work and impact have been, I would like to share that this year Nancy was nominated to receive a Special Education Paraprofessional Award from the Wisconsin Council of Administrators of Special Services. As I was reminiscing about Nancy, it was so great to think back to the many fond memories about her, such as Nancy helping us through the good times and the difficult times too, like when she taught from her basement through our virtual learning platform during COVID shutdown. I know, that was a tough one, right? And always doing her absolute best to keep our students positively engaged and safe inside of our school, as well as on the playground when they weren't so sure how to navigate that on their own. And leading the charge of collecting gene money in our school to support countless good causes over the years, showing our kids genuinely how much she cares about them, especially those who needed the reminder the most. As you can see within Nancy's time in Ripon, she has been an invaluable part of our school family and will be dearly missed by all who've had the privilege to work with her, including me. A few of those descriptive phrases from our staff about Nancy would be fun-loving, a great listener, a huge heart, strong, dedicated, compassionate, hilarious, patient, hardworking, and loyal. We are so very happy for you, Nancy. We wish you so much the best. Congratulations. And Janet Ernst. It's a big year for your request, everybody. Oh, Janet. Okay, Janet has been serving in the Ripon Area School District for 33 years, but she has been teaching for 44 and a half years overall. What a stretch. Janet started her teaching career mid-year at a Catholic school in Nebraska in 1980. At the age of 21, where she taught 32 6th grade students who were used to running the show before Janet arrived. She spent every moment of her day with her students teaching all subjects, including specials, art in particular for Janet. The others taught music and Phi Ed, along with eating lunch and having recess with them as well. Janet then moved on to teaching in a few different public schools in Nebraska for the next 3 years. Her teaching during this time ranged from teaching a 1st and 2nd grade split of 27 students in a very small rural school district and being the cheerleading sponsor, even though Janet had never cheerleaded in her life, to teaching 4th through 6th grade. Janet then taught for 5 years in Colorado before finding her long-term home in Ripon in 1991, where she has been teaching 4th or 5th grade for the past 33 years. Janet started her teaching career in Ripon at Central School, when excitement was defined as adding a couple of computers to the school. Never mind the safety factor of the extension cords draping down the stairwells. Or excitement could be classified as being able to turn a Diddle Master into actual copies, as long as you didn't mind the purple ink that stains your fingers. It was in 1993 when Murray Park Elementary School opened its doors, and Janet started teaching at our current site. Within her 31 years at Murray Park, Janet has touched our school and our district in countless ways, such as Janet was one of the founding members of Quest Elementary School that opened in 2010, where she has been teaching ever since its inception while using a project-based approach to learning to teaching. Janet is extremely talented as a teacher. She has always been the one who gets the most out of every day and every learning experience with every child. She is truly a master of interdisciplinary teaching and learning. Virtual learning within our district shutdown during COVID was no exception, as Janet just simply would not take no for an answer to help her students succeed. I will never forget your system, Janet, as you dropped off and they picked up assignments and dropped off assignments outside of the front door of her house. And then Janet would go so far, of course, of making home deliveries of supplies and assignments wherever needed. Janet is also a Project Lead the Way master teacher in our district and across the country, which is one of the many ways our team continually benefits from her science expertise. It is not at all uncommon for Janet to pause what she is doing to problem solve a robotic question or some other science-related question with one or more students across our school. Janet is also one of the fiercest gardeners that you can imagine, as she not only has a tower garden in her classroom with beautiful greens that I've teased that I would like to sneak for my own lunch, but she's also a key leader with our greenhouse, not to mention that she comes in to water and tend to our outdoor garden beds during school breaks and weekends to ensure that they are thriving. Janet has co-led our school science fair for many years, which has been an event where we welcome loads of visitors and partnered with Ripon College for the day. This is yet another way our students' interest in the area of science has been fueled. We currently have a makerspace in our media center, which originally started with Janet's vision on a smaller scale within Quest. This has grown to be a popular learning experience across our school that all kids can now access. Another point of celebration for Janet is that in 2019, she was inducted into the Delta Kappa Gamma International Society for Key Women Educators. And the list could go on in endless ways that Janet has positively impacted our school community and our district. A few of those descriptive phrases from our team about Janet. She is a catalyst. She is committed, creative, driven, focused, highly skilled, innovative, kind-hearted, a scientist, and passionate. Overall, Janet is one of the most dedicated and talented educators I have ever had the privilege of working with. She has made an incredible impact within the lives of our students, staff, and families in Ripon within the past 33 years. She is truly a remarkable person and teacher whose legacy will be felt for many years to come. You will be dearly missed, Janet. Congratulations to you.
hate going after Renee. To say.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
I have 3 people to honor tonight, and in no particular order other than how they are on my papers. I'm going to start with Heather Bernard. Heather has served the Ripon Area School District students and families for 23 years. She has worked in early childhood with our littlest learners. She has worked at Murray Park and had made the move to the middle school, high school program for students with intellectual disabilities, when the middle school moved to this current building. All this time, she served students with the most significant needs: physical, intellectual, social, emotional. She cared for each and every student as if they were her own, advocating for their learning and health and wellness needs on a regular basis. She has worked with some students from early childhood all the way through their graduation. The support she provides as a student support staff member is just as important as a teacher. I was chatting with a former employee, Emily, about the huge gap Heather's retirement will leave us, and she had some words she wanted me to mention as well. She agreed that Heather is the most kind-hearted individual that has not only touched the lives of many of the most special students, but has helped her become the teacher she is today by encouraging her to not only be a better teacher, but also to be the best human being she could. I believe this could be said for many of the teachers Heather has worked with. You will be greatly missed. Thank you for your service. Nancy has worked in the district serving students in a variety of support staff roles that included early childhood at Barlow Park, Murray Park, Ripon Middle School, Ripon High School, as office staff at the ASC, and for Odyssey School. Nancy is not only dedicated, but extremely flexible. She has adapted and changed with needs of students, including being one-on-one with students, working in small groups, supporting teachers and students at many levels and in many different ways. When COVID learning caused us to pivot, she was able to go from supporting students at the high school to supporting students at Murray Park without skipping a beat. When needs arose at the district office, Nancy stepped out of her role working with students to serve in the payroll department, keeping our district functioning well. She would have been a really bad thing if she didn't. Just one of her many, many talents. Nancy has a huge heart and is a great advocate for students. She always looks for ways to make learning better by making accommodations for students in her care. It was a sad day when Nancy alerted us that she would be entering retirement early to care for her granddaughter. What a lucky little girl that is to have such an amazing grandma. I am blessed to have worked with Nancy as a teacher and as Director of Special Education. On behalf of our students and families, I thank you for your 22 and a half years of unwavering service to our district. Congratulations, Nancy. Wendy Hefner. Wendy has served in the Ripon Area School District for 36 years, ladies and gentlemen. 36 years in this district alone. This was her first job, and she stayed here. That is amazing. That's awesome. Working with high school students as a special education teacher the entire time, right? Special education. She recently noted her favorite part of her job was watching the growth of students from freshman year to senior year and seeing how happy and proud they were when they earned their diplomas. I cannot say for certain, but it is likely that Wendy has worked with well over 500 students in this time, attended over 700 IEP meetings, experienced dozens of room changes, worked with dozens of teachers, and helped hundreds of students to graduate. In the last 4 years, as I have been Director of Special Education, Wendy has mentored several special education teachers and support staff. She is a fierce advocate for students transitioning from high school to the workforce or to secondary education. She helps students accomplish whatever it is they set their minds to, and she never does the work for them. She works hard to solve problems with students before bringing it to admin or to parents, and when she does ask for help, I know she has tried everything in her power to help the student first. She has stepped up during summer months to participate in evaluations and IEP meetings. She's also stepped up in summer for teacher interviews, as well as to serve students learning in alternative settings, such as homebound, that need special education support. Her dedication to the district and our students is second to none. She is leaving big shoes to fill, but I am incredibly grateful I was able to work with Wendy, both as a teacher and a director, and I cannot thank her enough for all she has done for our students and families. Congratulations, Wendy.
So I have Pete Krieger as my lead custodian that has been with me for the last 7 years. I think he's...
Hey, I'm over here.
Everybody knows Pete. He started in the district around 2010 as a sub-custodian, helped did most of the buildings, and then shortly before I started, he was a full-time custodian here at night. I believe one of his main responsibilities was cleaning bathrooms for 2 years, along with public areas and gym area, things like that. When I started working with the team, I didn't meet Pete for almost 2 weeks. Wasn't sure who Pete was, but everybody told me great things about Pete, and Pete had a lot of things to tell me. And when I got to meet Pete, we had one thing in common. We wanted to change the way the building got cleaned, clean it appropriately at night, and really develop a team that everybody's proud to be on, and to make the building look as great as it does. This is one of our buildings that we showcase a lot, almost every day, with different events. And with Pete at the wheel, I knew that the building was going to be in good hands. I think over the time that I've been working with Pete, I think he's missed work maybe a couple days, and it's usually because he physically can't get here because he's so sick. But he usually never misses a beat. He's always here. Most people probably recognize Pete either with the check-in, seeing how groups are, if they have everything they need, if the boardroom's set up correctly, or maybe, having a meeting and you hear somebody singing in the background, their favorite music blaring in the gym, and Pete's trying out for an audition. So, but over the course of the 7 years that I've worked with Pete, he's always had the pride to make the building look as good as he can. Really work with the team, develop a great team that we have here. I've also asked him numerous times, Pete, you sure you don't want to stick around a little longer? Don't you want to stick around a little longer? I asked him about it this afternoon, and I said, 10 more years, Pete. He goes, I think you got 10 more days. So, Pete, thank you. Thank you for leading the team. Thank you for always helping me navigate any of the events. The last couple of weeks, he's helped me take over as the lead here for the building, and he'll be our lead set up for graduation. So, thank you, Pete, for everything you do. Thank you for helping out everybody that comes into our building and always being there to help.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
And we will look forward to Pete coming to visit.
Yes, I will.
At events, but I know Pete will be back, and we'll know he's here. So, congratulations, Pete.
Yep, thank you.
I honestly have been dreading this day for quite a while. You started this, Bill, a month ago. I have always seen it as a plus to have both you, Rick, and Renee as a husband and wife team and as principals here, Rick. But it is extra hard today to say goodbye to both of you as individuals. And as instructional leaders, I get through graduation without crying when my kids are graduating, I can tell you. So Rick, I'll start with you. 31 years. Congratulations to you on your very successful career here in Ripon, which began in '93 when you took a full-time physical education teacher position at Ripon High School. And were a full-time teacher for 14 years in that position, also teaching health and writers ed. Yeah.
Trust me.
Okay. You stayed in that position until you accepted the call in 2007 to be assistant principal and AD, a position that you held for 7 years until 2014-15. And during that time, you worked with 3 different high school principals and you were part of the remodeling of the building. During those early years, we would get into great discussions about what could happen to support students earlier or help them to see their own potential and to have them become respectful of themselves and their staff and to really learn and grow and open up opportunities for themselves in the future. So when the middle school position opened, I was so pleased when you asked if I thought you should apply. And if I could see you in that position, and my response was yes, and it was due to all those conversations. You've now been in that position for 9 years. As an assistant principal, you were able to support the principal, but when you took over for Ripon Middle School, all of Ripon got to see the full force of you as an instructional leader, and I'm so grateful for that. I knew that you would be a great principal because I remember being a new superintendent here in Ripon, and I would walk into your old office before the remodel. It was about where Amanda's art teacher office was, no window. We would connect to create a game plan to remediate behaviors, but you were always focused on building up the students and where they were headed. Often our conversations would lead to talking about instruction, and you would share your vision for building them up as human beings from an earlier age. Rick, as you have this go with the flow, and you always find a way to make things work even through COVID. Often you would rework things at the middle school to allow resources to be moved into other buildings because you were always putting others in the team first. You've always had just a way with words, which we can all attest to. You could say it like it was, and yet students and parents always knew that you were on the mark. Maybe it's because of your many years, you were coaching or as a PE instructor, not to mention that you taught a good majority of individuals on the road in Ripon how to drive. A lot of the parents of our current students. I think that has really helped to build your nerves of steel. I don't think there's much that can surprise you. The overwhelming comments from staff all of these years has been that you have been so incredibly visible to them and accessible. You are rarely in your office. You are always out in classrooms interacting with students and staff. So as you close your time here, I want to thank you for being so fully committed and energized throughout this entire year. And I know that I speak for the entire Ripon Area School District family when I say that I'm very happy that 31 years ago it was Ripon that presented itself interesting enough for you to join as you launched your career in education. And please know that whatever you choose to do in your retirement, we wish you many, many hours of rest and relaxation. Thank you for your efforts. We appreciate your helping to hire in Danny, Dina students who will now be moving in behind you to carry on your wonderful legacy. We thank you for your many years of dedicated service to the student, staff, and parents at the secondary level here in Ripon. Congratulations, and we wish you the very best as you enter this next chapter. We will miss you.
No.
this. I have one more thing to give you. You gotta open it now. I was trying to figure out what to get you. And really on the top of my list was a bag of tater tots, because so often when you go out to dinner and you get them and you say, Renee never lets me have these. So I got you this. To rework yourself after you let go of all those middle schoolers, it's learned optimism. This, because it finally will be true. Mondays should be optional. And then I got you this. Because it's not going to require any care or responsibility.
That's we need to get ready. He's wrong.
Let's take a deep breath here. All right, Renee. Saying your name, I shouldn't do that. Oh my, I'm not sure quite where to even begin. What a tremendous instructional leader you have been. I appreciate all of the expertise and learning that you have brought to this administrative team, including your building and your staff. Being principal requires one to wear many hats, and you have done that with style. First, you transform the environment, helping others to really understand the work, not only within our hearts and the classrooms, but also reflected within the amazing uplift that you gave to the building. You have led the way with building safety initiatives in our district, setting the bar high to ensure that students and staff were ready to respond to any challenge that they may face. As COVID hit, you helped to transform instruction to ensure that students were learning and making academic gains in spite of not being in person, which I'm incredibly challenged with our little people. When given the opportunity to celebrate you, here are some of the words that others have said. Thank you, Mrs. Bundy, for the wonderful impact that you have had on our Ripon children. You helped advance our learners to a new level. Forever grateful for the impact that you have made on our students and staff. Thank you for the many years of making a difference. We are so blessed that you have touched so many children. Thank you for your service. You are appreciated by so many. Our school district and community was and is blessed to have you. You have worked hard to create a great legacy as a teacher and as administrator. You have been such an impactful leader in our school and community. Thank you for all of the positive ways that you have made a difference and for your endless dedication to all students and to staff. Thank you for all that you have done in this district and for me. I'm so happy that you chose to leave Oshkosh to retire here in Ripon over the past years and to help lead us. You too are leaving a wonderful legacy behind through your many years of dedicated service to students, staff, and parents at the elementary level here in Ripon. Congratulations and best wishes to you as you too enter this next chapter. We will miss you.
So on behalf of the board, I congratulate all of you, and we really appreciate everything you've done for the district for almost 2 centuries if we add it all up individually. So thank you all very much, and I think another round of applause for everybody.
Can I rally everybody outside for a picture? One final one. David, there's
I know, Rick,
Sings to me, but you know, it's still in the phone. Like I have no space. Come on, ladies, get the picture.
I know.
The business that gets done.
So, since the last time I've been here, there hasn't been anything really that new happening, but this week, it's pretty much all, senior business. As we're preparing for graduation, it's pretty bittersweet, but it's pretty exciting with all the things we have planned. We had a senior sunset last night, we all just got together, played games, watched the sunset. It was pretty cloudy, so wasn't a great success, but there were a lot of people there. And then we have baccalaureate on Wednesday. Our parents have organized a senior party for Thursday, and then we have our grad walk on Friday, which is pretty crazy. But other than that, we had Friendship Day and the Fishing with Friends trip a few weeks back, which was pretty cool. One of our clubs, Activo, helped out with Friendship Day. Super cool to be a part of it. There was a lot of support from the high school in general and middle school. A lot of classes came down, cheered on all the kids, and it was really cool to see. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Good luck. Thank you. All right.
All right, now we have a special presentation, the audit firm presentation.
Our auditor, the auditor that we're proposing, Christina, she kind of double booked tonight, and so she had to hop on. She was messaging me as the retiree speeches were happening, so she can't present tonight, but we did have their proposal attached for you guys to review, and we've worked with her in the past, and so we're pretty confident that she's a great pick. But I also said that if you guys have any questions, that we will, share them with her and she can respond.
So have we been using, when were we working with her?
We picked her in 2021 when she was in Kerber. She was the lead auditor in 2021. And then she left Kerber Rose. And so this time around, at the end of our contract, we're happy to see her proposal was the cheapest one, and also, happy to work with her again.
So she was the incumbent on
I wouldn't call her that right now because when she left Kerber Rose, we had other auditors, but we chose her originally, I guess is what I would say. 3 years ago, we chose her, in 2021. So we worked with her for like 2 years, and then she left. So the incumbent is, I would say, is Kerber Rose under the current team.
I was just unclear on that. Thank you. I got it.
And our new company is clearly trying to expand into Wisconsin.
Yes, yeah, they mentioned that, and I think they've already got quite a few Wisconsin schools through her, so.
I mean, they seem like a much bigger organization. You don't have any concerns about that.
No, I think that they, from what I've been told, and from what she's told me, because she worked for both organizations, Kerber Rose actually was, outsourcing some of their work, and maybe because they're large enough, the new firm doesn't outsource anything. So I think we'll be happier with some of the aspects of that, and their presentations. They won't have any third parties helping them. It'll be done in house. So.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Jim. So unless there is some request to change the agenda, we'll adopt it as presented. Is there anything anybody would like to change? All right, then we adopt it as presented. Okay, we'll move on to announcements, contributions.
Thank you. Ripon Tent donated the use of tables estimated value of $400 to the Murray Park Quest Science Fair. Alliance Laundry Systems donated $500 to the Odyssey of the Mind 2024. Anessa Kramer donated $250 to the Odyssey Academy Virtual Learning, just as a donation. The Webster Family Fund, $500 to the Ripon Middle School Drama Club. Our Ripon Public Library created a new $1,000 scholarship that was part of the Ripon Education Foundation Scholarship Drive. And then the following individuals have donated $250 or more to our Ripon Education Foundation through the annual scholarship drive. Dale Baird, Lois Quinney, Peter and Emily Sensenbrenner, Betsy Blazek, William and Barbara O'Shine, James Jenks, Lee and Chris Gatsky, Susan and Mitch Windhammer, Diedrich Jewelry, Kyle and Teresa Henslin, Margaret Pepperman, Gary Rodman and Colleen Byron, Curtis and Denise Martinez, Kurt and Lindsay Walijko, I don't know if I said that right, Carrie Hughes, and Arlo and Diane Reichter. So we're very, very happy for all of those donations and very appreciative.
All right, that takes us to new business, and the first item is to consider approval of the audit services agreement. Is there a motion to put this on the floor?
So moved.
All right, that's a motion by Denise, is that correct? Second by Lauren. Any discussion? I've heard the, had a chance to ask questions. Any discussion now? All right, and I'll call for the vote. Everybody have buttons?
You have to resync. It's not working. Let's sync.
Just go to join meeting.
Try to join me.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Over here to join me now.
And it passes unanimously. Moving on. Next one is to consider approval of one-year suspension of the limited number of terms for board officers as set in policy 152. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Seeing none, call for the vote.
We discussed a while ago.
And it passes 8 in favor with 1 abstention. Consider confirming me as president of the board or nominate another candidate.
I move to confirm David Scott as president of the board as presented.
I'll second that.
Gary, second by Betsy. Any discussion? For the vote? And it passes. Thank you all. So now we have first reading of policy 152, a slight change in the wording of it. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of policy 152 officers as precinct.
Second.
Motion by Lori, second by Denise. Is there discussion? So the point of this would be to set us up for the future if the situation occurs again where no one wants to run for president. Tom?
I think we should leave it the way it is. It's been 38 years since the board came up with the 2-year limit, and we haven't run into this in 38 years. It's a long time, right? I'd rather see it stay the way it is.
Other comments?
Can we have it stay the way it is if we hold it already in?
It does stay the way it is, it just gives the board an option at the meeting if we run into the same situation. Otherwise, it's in place like it always was. But yeah, it's for the board to decide.
The way I see it, it still opens the door for 3 years. And that's how I feel.
I mean, can that language be changed again? I mean, this
The
seems like
language
it was a special year because of all the new people that, so I don't think it was necessarily the month you know, I think it was more about, you know, I felt like I only had a year, you know.
Well, that's what I meant when I said people don't want to run. I
Oh.
said some people were too busy. You don't want somebody who isn't gonna have the time.
Right.
Some people didn't have the experience and didn't want to be put in that position, and so the question, I guess, that arises, if we go with what Tom says, is what do we do if it does happen again?
And the option, if that happens again, would be that we just always put this policy on the agenda to make people aware of it, and then we've noticed it, so that if the board would be in a similar situation, they could actually take action. Because at that last meeting, we were up against the April 30th deadline to have officers in place, so.
So this could be brought to that meeting, the reorg meeting, it could be just a standing agenda item
It
on
could
every
be
reorg meeting so that it's open to the public.
that it's at least there, and they know that if for some reason there weren't candidates, the board would have the opportunity to do that. But you would have to take action at the board meeting, like this last time, to actually suspend it, because you haven't done that past this next year.
I appreciate the point that Tom is making. It isn't necessarily broken, so it doesn't require a fix, and this does open a door in the future that maybe we don't intend to open. So if I'm understanding correctly, a no vote is a vote to maintain the status quo in the past 38 years.
And then I think it would be helpful to know if, and maybe we just ask at the March meeting, if you would like that policy on the agenda in the event. There isn't, otherwise the board's kind of stuck at the meeting, if that makes sense.
Because we are at a deadline at that meeting, we have to make a decision.
Are 2-year terms industry standard
No.
among school
Rippon's
boards?
unique.
It's very unusual, but it was put in place in Ripon because of a bad situation. So there was a historical reason. Tom was on board at the time, so you could talk to him about it. But there was a reason why the policy was put in the first place. It particularly applies to the president, but it was put in to apply to all positions, and it's good to get the, I personally think it's good to get the rotation of things. And it's true that if we don't change it, it makes that a strong message. And Tom's essentially saying if we do change it, it doesn't change in many ways because the standard is still, the expectation is it's no more than 2 years. But it does make it a little bit easier because it's just be handled.
Is it possible to always have this then on like the March agenda every year? So that we can talk about it and put it for have it be at the reorg meeting then too? If we need to, does that make sense?
I mean, it can only, it
I
can always,
think you're kind of doing the same thing, it's just trying to have, unless there's, you know, thoughts about what, if what happened this past, it's never happened in all my years here. But if that were to happen again, what, you know, I think we actually have just seen a board member who would usually step in and be president has just gone off the board. But would sometimes, you know, Andy would sometimes be that president in between if no one else wanted. And so we just kind of ran into a situation where no one was willing to step up and, you know, in that case.
and I think if we're worried about it, it should just go on the agenda every year. Because even in March, sometimes people in March think that they're perfectly willing to be president, and something happens between March and the end of April. So there's no guarantee, even if in March we think the whole situation isn't going to come up. I didn't think it was going to come up this year, but
We could always just put it on the agenda and then the board could choose to do nothing with it unless it was needed. Those were the kind of the two options that I think were available.
Could somebody speak to what the downside of this change would be? I'm not sure.
Tom was speaking to it.
You
I'm
wouldn't
not
have to
sure.
put it on the agenda, I think. It would just be
No,
built into your practice.
I think the downside, at least for me, the downside is, I think this is what Tom was saying, is that it makes it a little bit more likely that the situation is going to arise. I mean, I think for the last 30 years, it's just been, no, you can't do this, it's not going to happen, and nobody even thought about it one way or the other. And this is the first time in 38 years that the situation has actually occurred. And if we built the language into the policy, I think Tom's suggesting, and I think he might be right, that it becomes a little bit more likely that people will just kind of say, oh, well, we can fix it in a different way, instead of saying, well, somebody's got to step up and do it.
But isn't that going to be the same outcome if we have something on the agenda every year? Isn't the purpose of that to give us the
But then
opportunity to do it? So it's still the same.
And we always do, but it takes a 2/3 vote of the board to do it. So, I don't know. I think I'm not sure this is a big downside. I'm not sure that it makes that big a difference one way or the other. I think we're in kind of a special situation this year, and I don't think it's likely to happen, but you could argue that either way. Then we don't need to change anything, or you could say it's okay. Josh?
I'd be in favor of leaving it as it is. I've always been in favor of term limits, just everywhere it should be. In the 8 years that I've attended reorg meetings, you know, there's always been 2, 3, sometimes there was 4 people for candidates, where this year it was different. There's never been essentially 5 new board members in,
Right.
I mean, when I started, I think, well, Amy and I were the first new board members in a couple of years. And I mean, Betsy's even just starting her second term,
And then we're
bigger in year 2,
Okay.
of second term.
Yeah.
So, you know, Betsy's the fifth most tenured person on the board.
You are, aren't you? How long have you been on, Gary?
No, because I would, it'd be
Oh,
me,
you-
then Gary, then Dave, then, well,
Yeah.
technically not Dave, because,
We count as breeds.
but I think that it should stay as is, and if there's ever a situation, it's dealt with then, but my hope would be that in the years coming that other people will step up and fill the roles.
So if we don't vote yes for this, does that mean we go back to selecting a different president, or do we already say
No,
that?
next
So this
year.
is something,
Next year.
okay.
You're already good to go for this next year, now, right?
I can do it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then that's what we,
This doesn't
that's
have,
what we,
no,
yeah.
this
doesn't
is
use
just,
it.
this is just the bylaws.
Yeah.
So this, voting yes would, in theory, just simplify the process next year. Voting no
Puts us back in the same
puts
situation.
us back in the same situation, which would be an unlikely situation, it sounds like.
Are you ready to vote?
Mhm.
Yes.
And the motion fails, so the policies will stay the same. So now we have to consider approval of the first reading to update the language of policy 8442, reporting accidents to reflect current practice as recommended by district insurance provider. So I motion to put it on the floor. Thank you, John.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we may vote. And that passes unanimously. Consider approval of the indoor turf project for the Ripon High School Fitness Lab, which we heard about last month. Is there a motion to put this one on the floor?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any discussion?
We heard about it last month and I'm convinced it's a good idea.
All right. I'll call for the vote. And it also passes unanimously. Consider approval of the Odyssey Virtual Charter School contract. So a motion to put that one on the floor.
Motion. So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Lori? All right. I just have a question for you, Mary, that I assume if we approve this, we can fix there's a few grammatical typo things that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you tell me what.
There's nothing that changes the content, just a couple of verbs change the subject and the verb didn't get changed in the action.
It's that policy.
That's right. Any discussion otherwise? All right. We'll vote. Contract is approved for the next 5 years. Consider approval of Barlow Park Elementary carpet replacement. Is there a motion?
I say no.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any questions for anybody about it? So the money is coming from Fund 46? Okay. All right, seeing no discussion, no vote. Passes unanimously. Consider approval of 2024-2025 open enrollment application decisions. Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Katie? I just have a question. Do we never seniors into Odyssey? We don't take seniors into Odyssey?
We haven't been because of the projects and things that we have to do with the curriculum. It's really challenging. And if students are coming in really credit deficient, it's almost like it's not a good call. Also, I was thinking that with the special needs population, we're at capacity, so that was maybe some of the denials, right?
Yes.
The number of
Yeah, because we're all, it's either special education or it was seniors.
seniors.
Okay.
And I knew about the special education, but I wasn't aware of the seniors. Any other questions? All right, may vote. And passes unanimously. Consider approval of preliminary 2024 summer school staffing proposal. I'll take a motion. Motion by Lori. And a second. Katie. Any comments or questions about summer school staffing?
So what happens if the teachers, there's a couple open areas yet, do they just cancel them, those classes that are, might need teachers?
I can speak to that, you need me to come up to the table. We do have a couple of openings yet, that we are trying to fill, and yes, typically if we're not able to fill them, then we shuffle around and try to fill. We actually just posted for another health teacher for the high school because we have a lot of students who want to take health and global studies this summer. So we just posted and are hopeful. So if anyone knows anyone, we are in need of a health teacher and still a technology teacher at one of our elementary schools as well.
Are we having trouble getting teachers, more trouble than we've had in the past getting teachers?
Just that particular one?
Just that one?
We are fortunate because so many of the hires that we have on there are our own teachers, which is wonderful. We always like to see that, but yeah, we just have high numbers for that global studies and health class. And then we did have a teacher secured for technology, and she ended up taking a different position. So that left an opening, and that's a really popular class. So we were hoping to be able to fill it, but it's not looking too promising right now.
It's just the two then that are open? Or is
Yes,
there-
currently.
Okay.
I noticed at the middle school, with one exception, I mean, it's either sports related or it's math and reading, and then there's one Pinterest art thing. That's not a very large selection of courses.
And that seems to vary by teacher interest from time to time. You know, some teachers who are actually teaching enrichment out of their comfort or content area. But we try to staff our core teachers to be able to support in the areas of math and literacy if possible. Yeah, there are lots of sports opportunities for sure in those schools too.
Yeah, thanks to my advising.
Those classes are full.
And they are full, yes, absolutely. They are
Yeah,
taking
waiting
that.
lists from what I heard.
Yes, for sure.
All right, any other questions or comments? We can vote. Thank you, Chrissy. And the proposal is approved. Consider approval of professional staff voluntary transfer. This is Helen Clark. Is there a motion?
Move to approve as presented.
Jerry, and who was the second?
Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion? Call for the vote. Transfer is approved. Action on part-time teacher contracts. A motion, please.
So moved.
Any discussion? Any questions? All right. You may vote. And those contracts are approved. Personnel. We'll do these all at once. Is there a motion to approve hiring all 5 candidates? Any questions? May vote. And they're all approved. Which takes us to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda anyone would like to have removed? I should make the point to new members that the consent agenda is a way of doing things very quickly. We don't discuss anything on the consent agenda unless it's been removed from the consent agenda. So if there's anything, a question about, it should be removed. Otherwise, we simply have a motion, a second, and a vote. So, again, is there anything anybody would like to have removed? Then is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. Oh, my eyes are looking that way, so I have to carry. And you may vote. Consent agenda is approved. So we have possible upcoming action items, and the first one is the night lead custodian job description. Any comments or questions about the job description? We have been for several years in the process of updating all job descriptions in the school district. So you'll see these coming up every once in a while as we either change some of them or catch up. Any comments or questions? All right. Additional virtual learning days to support 4K grade 5 AC Act 20 teacher literacy training requirement. So the idea is to put in 2 virtual learning days so that there can be teacher training for the Act 20, which is coming into effect. The dates would be December 9th and March 7th. If there aren't any other professional days built into the calendar during this. Any questions, comments, discussion about this item?
Is this in a specific school level, so could children apply to the high school?
It just applies to the elementary grades.
Just, talk about just a little bit and then the need for them and what those days will look like. Because we're planning for them versus our snow days where we don't know those
Right. So the memo notes that it would only be for K through 5th grade elementary students. Again, this is the effect of the Act 20 teacher training requirement that goes into effect starting with the 24-25 school year. Our hope, and we know it's not ideal, right, because we always want student contact days for sure. But our thought would be that on those December 9th and March 7th days that we would treat those as virtual learning days. From the perspective, however, that students actually would be engaged with their teachers for a portion of that day, but from a virtual standpoint.
So they would take devices?
Correct. And knowing those dates in advance, we would make sure that students did take the devices home the night before. So they would interact with their instructors, with their teachers for part of the morning, and then the teachers would transition to the training after they were done with their students. So the teachers would be on site because the training that we are doing collaboratively. The students would be from home or from their care provider for those 2 days.
So they wouldn't be losing any days, they're just at home.
Correct. Since COVID, we have been able to actually count virtual learning days, and we just want to make sure that we are using the virtual days to full capacity. And by doing so and interacting with their teachers, we would certainly be able to count those days.
I think my concern would be the level of engagement that you're able to get from a 4K-er, let's say, as a virtual learning day. I mean, just from a developmental standpoint, having them engage on a computer with their teacher, I don't know how that would work.
I will say one of the days, I think it's the March 7th day, is a Friday. So our 4K students are not in session on that Friday anyway, so it would be that Monday, December 9th day. We do recognize that has certainly been a challenge, especially for our 4K through 2 students. It's always been a little bit harder. But again, I think that it sets us up in a good position to help prepare us for any future whether implement virtual days that we might have. So in a sense, it's kind of practice for our teachers to be able to engage and to really figure out what that learning can look like to be as impactful as possible in that
And just in
situation.
terms of 4K, since we've gone to the full day, we actually provide more minutes than we ever did in 4K with that change. But yeah, you're so correct in what you're saying, and not ideal, but the requirements for Act 20 and the training that teachers are required and the plans they're going to have to develop, and then it's a question of not moving students on and actually retaining if they don't make some of their goals. So it's really pretty high stakes, and I think we're one of the districts that's kind of leading the way and is ahead of kind of many other districts in terms of our professional development and where we are. So this might be something we see other districts do as well. Just because they're going to kind of hit that same place too, where how do you fit all of the required training in, short of adding a complete professional development day, not having school. And we thought this is at least a compromise where there's still some connection engagement with the students.
It's never ideal, but as Mary noted, we're pretty confident. What we've done with professional development to date has really set us on a good path in terms of instruction for our students. The training that our teachers acquire as part of this will only prepare them even more so to be able to get further gains with our students in the future. So again, we recognize it's not ideal, but kind of that compromise to be able to provide quality training for our staff, which is essential. That collaborative component is so key to all of this with the new department.
And we actually have more training in the summer for staff than we have in the other years, so we're really cautious to add any more days in the summer because we're already across the district paying for additional days. So we want to be respectful of that too. It's kind of, in a way, the perfect storm, and yet I think we're going to see some amazing instruction too.
Are you anticipating this, needing to do this in future years as well, or is this a
This should
one-time?
just be a one-time. Our training will continue into the 25-26 school year as well, but we will have the majority of it complete, so I don't anticipate the need to have to add those dates in the following year.
The growing number of virtual learning days that we have, what is that doing to our working parents? Because what I'm remembering is when I had small children and they were not in school and I needed to work, I basically just had to find someone to keep them alive until I got home from work. And now our parents have to find someone to not only keep them alive and out of trouble, they also have to find someone who's going to help them log on and help them stay engaged with their computer and help them with questions. How are our parents doing with all of this? Because it's a growing, for the little ones, it's already hard when you're a working parent with young children.
Absolutely, and I hear you. What I would tell you is that because of our Community Learning Center grant, all of the other professional development days that we have in our district when our kids would be out with someone, we actually have Camp Break. So we actually cover more days for parents now than we ever have. The only days that parents really are surprised at, don't have coverage are those true holidays or breaks. Thanksgiving, the winter break, and spring break. Otherwise, we offer Camp Break. I mean, it's amazing that even on teacher in-service days, you can drop your child off at 6:30, 6:45 in the morning, and they're there until 5 because they can go from before school care to Camp Brave and then to wraparound care. So it truly is just those virtual days that they're looking for someone, and now these 2 planned days. So in some ways, I feel like we offer more, and it's for the very reason you described, because it's a challenge, and we know that maybe not everyone is in an ideal situation, and so some families are off, like we said, some families are off to a museum or to a zoo, and the kids are having this great excursion, and other kids didn't have access to that, so Camp Brave has really leveled that, because now you come to school on that in-service day, and you get to go to the zoo or to Heritage Hill or another museum, and you get to be with your friends in a safe environment, so parents don't have to worry. But that's one of the reasons we did that, because we are just very aware that it's a struggle, and it's why we moved away from the late starts, because that was just an odd, every week, that odd interaction, so.
Right, yeah, the virtual learning days really are only for inclement weather days, aside from these 2 additional.
Otherwise, there really is coverage for kids on all the professional development days as well, which we're excited about, and we wish more parents would use,
And leveraging Brave for this isn't feasible, right? Because there's not enough hands to deal with it all, right?
It would probably be too many, it would probably be too many if everyone came.
Right.
And then the reality is that not everyone would come, and then all of those that didn't come wouldn't be doing anything that day. So we thought this is an opportunity, and yet if someone can't, and they can't log on, we understand that. But for those that can be a really fun learning day, and they can be on some of the programs. They can do their Type to Learn, they can do their iReady, they can do some of those things that if we didn't call it a virtual learning day, they maybe couldn't do any of those things.
Chrissy, is there a high percentage of, especially with the younger kids, that do the virtual learning days when they have the opportunity to do that?
Like during weather,
Yes,
weather
yes.
days, certainly our teachers do.
Right.
Many of them do hold meetings, class meetings that the students will hop on to. We are just in a position where I think we can revisit what that looks like, and really revisit kind of our expectations and, kind of look at, what the structure of that would be. We also have quite a few new staff,
Right.
so this would be an opportunity to help prepare them for those days as well if needed.
Is there a lot of students that do take advantage of that?
That do have on to
Yes.
these? Yes.
Okay, good. That's great.
Yes.
I wasn't sure with the little, like you said, with the little ones,
They
you know,
need to, and again, we're not, if it's an inclement weather day, we're not always prepared for that. So
Right.
we don't always send home our devices.
Yeah.
With knowing these dates, that would put us in a good position
Yes.
to be able to send devices home with all of our students to really practice.
And
what
they
that
kind of
means.
have that practice to do that.
I mean, most of the kids, my experience is that kids, a lot, as they get older, probably maybe not K-2, but they're, when they're 3, 4, 5, they're very self-directed. I mean, they have a snow pack in their bags at all times. And so when it's a snow day, if it's unplanned, even if they don't have a device, there's things that they have to do.
The packet.
I'm supposed to do. But as they get older, the kids are so much more inclined to do, hop on a computer to do things than they want.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm assuming, I mean, we live in Wisconsin, and we have snowstorms, and we usually know ahead of time when they're gonna happen. So teachers probably prepare for that as well, I'm sure.
I would say for the most part, however, it depends on parents. And there are lots of parents who do not make their kids do it. So there are lots of kids that don't do anything on snow days.
But we never did.
Exactly.
Snow day.
I think part of it too, though, that I think should be acknowledged is that it's not always the parents not making their kids do anything. Sometimes parents don't have the privilege of taking off of work. And
No,
then
absolutely.
Absolutely.
those kids are at daycare or babysitter and they're not going to get their snow day.
It's kind of, you were saying that, Betsy.
Wait,
I agree.
you're sending devices home in 4K?
We would, well, again, 4K, it affects one day for 4K.
Right.
One of the Fridays is a Friday that they're off, but we do have that ability to do so.
And often we will ask parents, do you want us to send a school device home, or do you want to do it? Sometimes the parent would rather have them go home on their device. But the school device is nice because there's so many things loaded on in such an easy way that the kids are used to accessing, so it makes one more.
Is it, what do they get? What is it that they get to
It's a
take home?
Oh,
Chromebook?
they're Chromebook.
That's awesome.
So Chrissy, what would happen if these two virtual days did not get approved?
We would probably have to push back some of the training, the teacher training, to end up having to do it in the summer. Probably not this coming summer, but it would be the following summer. Again, those days are difficult to require for teachers because of teacher schedules during the summer, calendars and things like that. And it would be an added expense as well, and having to pay, the teachers to attend the training as well. The way we are setting up our training for next year is, again, we're really focused on doing a collaborative approach. So the teachers do online modules collaboratively, and then we provide coaching support like the following month. So it's kind of a every other month model of support, and without having those days built in December and March, we kind of lose that momentum, which we would like to try to keep if possible.
Is it unrealistic to think that this could just be these could just be Camp Brave days and not virtual learning days at all? Just like a traditional in-service day? So there's somewhere for them to go if they can't stay home?
I did consider that. Part of the challenge is the contracted days for our professional staff. The other issue is that with our 612 students in session, we rely on that support staff to also help with Camp Brave, and they would not be available because they're still supporting students as well. So I know a lot of these questions that you're asking.
We talked through all of those things. We talked through all of those things as well.
Anything else from anyone? And of course, this will come up next month, so if you think of anything in the meantime, if it's questions, you can get in touch with Mary and ask the questions. And if the answers are important, so get them out to all of us. So we can continue to think more about it. We move on. Superintendent reports.
Yeah, and really, I think the biggest thing is just, Chrissy and I continue to just talk about that impact of Act 20 and what our staff is seeing, and that's a part of all their in-services. And I think they're feeling the pressure of the work that they're doing and what that will mean as they move forward to ensure that students are where they need to be. And Chrissy, I don't know if you want to take just a couple of minutes for any board members so they understand what's different about that and what's coming and why it's important that we're doing what we're doing.
Sure. And
It's not a nice to, it's a have to legal requirements.
Right. And I will be doing a formal presentation in June also, to just to update everybody on where we're at with it. But for new board members, Act 20 is it's a new law that was put in place in which it's really to address, I guess, literacy instruction at the foundational level. So it's really devoted to kindergarten through third grade students, but it does certainly impact our 4K students as well because they set the foundation. And the way we've set it up, we have included our 4th and 5th grade teachers as well for a variety of reasons, simply because some of the students that our 4th and 5th grade teachers teach, certainly can benefit from the learning and training that we're doing as a result of Act 20. Also, if we have staff who teach fourth and fifth who end up shifting to a lower level, it sets us up in a good position that they already would have had the required training. So any teacher that is employed at any district across the state has to show evidence that they have taken this required teacher training. And the teacher training has to be approved from a list of trainings that the Department of Public Instruction has deemed. And the trainings are super time intensive. Many of them are virtual. And at the end of the teacher training, there is a comprehensive test that the teachers have to take as well. So even though we are doing the training collaboratively, every teacher has to log into their account and go through the training, show that they've completed it. We have to provide that evidence to the state. So basically keeping record of everything that we are doing from a district perspective. In addition to the teacher training, we had leadership training that we are fortunate that we've been part of. Both Sean, Jesse, Renee have gone through it. Myself, Jill Cullenbecker, that's another one of the requirements that literacy leaders have to be trained. There is the bottom 20% of your students in your district. If they do not pass the diagnostic that is being deemed from the state or selected by the state, will have to be given an individualized reading plan, which is somewhat like an IEP, truly, where you set goals based off of the different skills that they might be deficient in. We have to show evidence, we have to progress monitor, and again, all of that needs to be collected and submitted at the end of each year. So there are lots and lots of requirements. Again, I will be providing a solid update to everybody. We're still waiting for the state to determine what that diagnostic is, unfortunately. And then, I shouldn't say diagnostic, actually the screener is what's selected by the state. And then the diagnostic, districts have some flexibility to determine what diagnostic they will use to help monitor student progress.
It's a Wisconsin-specific act, so it's something that educators in Wisconsin are feeling the pressure to do and accomplish, and everything Chrissy just described is fitting in the contract time that we already have our professions. And so it's that added pressure, and when you put something else comes up. So.
And again, we've set ourselves up well and prepared ourselves. We knew that this shift in instruction was coming. We are committed to keeping the great things that we are already doing, but also shifting to what's known as the science of reading type instruction that is being deemed by the state of Wisconsin.
So as we talked about it too, we felt this was a nice way to support our teachers through what we know is going to be a really challenging year for them as they have to pass the requirements for them to continue. And we don't want teachers to leave the profession because of that added stress and pressure, and want to acknowledge to them that we're working with them as a team to get them through it so that they can do what they need to for the students and for the act.
Is there a deadline when they have to have that test done?
There is not. We have to start the training, however, during the 24-25 school year. Our plan, long-range plan, is to complete it within about a year and a half, 2 years, and really create a supportive, collaborative environment even when we take the exam. But yeah, we're hoping a couple of years, but we will have started this training, so any new staff that we bring in 25-26, we always have to think about the onboarding process and what that's going to look like.
Trying to catch up and,
Absolutely.
And for new teachers, they're going to be taking this on at the same time that they're learning everything, just to run a regular classroom and do that component too. So.
Are there any data collecting things that you're doing now that you can stop doing because you're going to be collecting data and this new system? I mean, so that you're not collecting it, you know, or is there a merging of any of the systems that can
We're hopeful, we're waiting still to hear from the state in terms of what screener is selected and which diagnostic is recommended.
Sure.
We are planning on, our iReady contract is up actually this year, however, we are planning on renewing it for 1 year because we do rely heavily on that diagnostic. It's something our teachers know, it's not anything that requires new training for this next school year. And quite honestly, we're hopeful that it makes the cut for the diagnostic recommendation list. So we will hopefully find out in June and July.
Well, and hopefully this will be taught to teacher educator classes in college.
That's kind of
Right?
the next step.
I
We've
mean,
certainly
that's-
been
yeah.
talking to institutes of higher ed and what their training plan should look like.
Sure.
We've even talked about how we might be able to promote that as a district and
Mhm.
allowing pre-service teachers to be part of our training
Mhm.
as well, which I think would be a great opportunity.
And make us an attractive district willing to
Yes.
be a pre-service teacher.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chrissy.
The other thing that we have to talk about is kind of putting a team together to look at selecting our friendly public schools. This is kind of that time. And usually we meet here in the early part of the summer and then submit that choice back to the board at the end of summer so that it can be now sort of that opening in service time. We have a list of past recipients.
Anybody like to be involved?
I'd like to be on it again.
It's a fun meeting.
I like it. It's very positive.
So we've got 3 there. Yep. Okay. Curriculum department highlights for May. Any comments or questions for Chrissy? Big sigh of relief that testing is over. All right, we'll move on to business-related reports. General fund interim budget report. Any questions or comments either for or from Jonah? Then we have the food service interim budget report. Any comments or questions there? School operations reports. Anything you would like to comment on for any of the schools?
Nice picture there, by the way, your dodgeball. I think that was in there somewhere.
A little sore after that day.
The pictures are always great.
All right. Then I'll take a motion to convene to closed session.
I move this community session.
Betsy. Second? All right. All vote. All right. So thank you all for attending.